Now let's look more closely at the electrical activity of the cardiac cells. When we first discussed action potentials, we emphasized that the basic properties of an action potential are consistent within a particular cell type. Cardiac cells are interesting because the heart contains different types of electrically active cells, and they produce different looking action potentials. For our purposes, we're going to divide the cardiac cells into two major functional groups: contractile cells and autorhythmic or pacemaker cells. The vast majority of cardiac muscle cells are contractile cells. These are the cells that actually generate the force. A much smaller population consists of specialized cells that can spontaneously generate electrical activity and help coordinate the heartbeat. Let's first look at the action potential of a typical contractile cardiac muscle cell. This action potential looks very different from the action potential we previously saw in a neuron or skeletal muscle fiber. Cardiac contractile cell action potentials are divided into several phases, numbered 0 through 4. Phase 0 is a rapid depolarization phase. Voltage-gated sodium channel is open, allowing sodium to rapidly enter the cell. This rapid influx of a positive charge causes the membrane potential to rise very quickly. During phase 1, at the peak of the action potential, the sodium channels become inactivated. At the same time, potassium begins to move out of the cell. This produces a brief period of initial repolarization. Phase 2 represents one of the most distinctive features of the cardiac action potential. We call this the plateau phase. During this phase, L-type calcium channels are open and calcium enters the cell. At the same time, potassium continues moving out of the cell. So we have at the same time calcium moving in, making the cell positive, and potassium moving out, which makes the cell negative. These opposing currents keep the membrane potential relatively stable for a period of time, producing the plateau. The calcium entering during this phase is also important because it triggers calcium-induced calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So the electrical activity and the mechanical contraction are closely linked through calcium. Phase 3 represents repolarization. Eventually, calcium entry decreases while potassium efflux predominates. The continued movement of potassium out of the cell brings the membrane potential back toward its resting membrane level. Phase 4 is resting membrane potential. The contractile cells remain at a relatively stable state during this time until another electrical signal depolarizes it. So why do we have the plateau? Why does it matter? Remember that skeletal muscle can undergo summation and eventually tetanus. This is possible because the skeletal muscle action potential is much shorter than the time required for the muscle fiber to contract. As a result, another action potential can occur before the muscle is completely relaxed. This allows for summation of contractions and, with sufficiently frequent stimulation, tetanus. Cardiac muscle is different because the cardiac action potential is prolonged largely because of the plateau phase. Cardiac muscle also has a long refractory period. During much of this contraction, cardiac muscle cells cannot generate another action potential. This prevents repeated stimulation from producing summation and tetanus. This is essential for normal cardiac function. The plateau phase results in a prolonged action potential with a prolonged refractory period. This means no tetanus and allows for relaxation and filling between heartbeats. Now let's compare that with the second major type of cardiac cell, the autorhythmic or pacemaker cell. These cells behave differently. Contractile cells have a relatively stable resting membrane potential. Pacemaker cells do not. Instead, after repolarization, the membrane potential immediately slowly starts drifting upwards toward threshold once again. This gradual spontaneous depolarization is called the pacemaker potential. One important contributor is this group of channels called funny channels. These channels produce slow inward current that gradually makes the inside of the cell more positive. As the membrane continues to rise, additional T-type calcium channels contribute to depolarization. This gets us to threshold. Once threshold is reached, L-type calcium channels open. Calcium moves rapidly into the cell and produces the major depolarization of the pacemaker cell action potential. Afterward, calcium channels close and potassium channels open. Potassium leaves the cell, causing repolarization. But once the cell repolarizes, the pacemaker potential begins again, so the cells repeatedly move toward threshold without requiring stimulation from a neuron. This property is called autorhythmicity. Here we have a summary comparing the action potentials of cardiac contractile cells and pacemaker cells. I want you to notice three major differences. First, pacemaker cells do not have a stable resting membrane potential. Instead, they have a pacemaker potential which gradually depolarizes the membrane toward threshold and allows these cells to generate action potential spontaneously. Second, pacemaker cells do not have this long plateau period. This is the phase we see only in contractile cells. And finally, the rapid phase of depolarization is produced by different ions. In contractile cells, phase 0 is caused by sodium moving into the cell, whereas in pacemaker cells, phase 0 is driven primarily by calcium influx. These autorhythmic cells are organized into specialized regions of the heart. If we zoom into one of these, what we'll see is that when an autorhythmic cell depolarizes, this electrical signal then spreads to neighboring contractile cells. Positive charge entering contractile cells through gap junctions breathes those cells toward threshold. Once threshold is reached, their voltage-gated sodium channels open and contractile cell action potential begins. Because the cardiac cells are electrically connected through gap junctions, electrical signals can spread rapidly from one to another. This allows for large portions of the myocardium to depolarize and contract in a coordinated fashion. These autoarrhythmic or conducting cells are organized into a specialized conduction system that coordinates the order in which different regions of the heart becomes electrically activated. The normal electrical sequence begins at the sinoatrial or SA node located in the right atrium. The SA node is normally the primary pacemaker of the heart because its cells spontaneously depolarize more rapidly than the other pacemaker cells. Because the SA node reaches threshold first, it normally determines the heart rate. Electrical signals spread from the SA node throughout the atrial myocardium. As the atrial cells depolarize, the atria subsequently contracts. The electrical signal then reaches the atrioventricular node, or AV node. In the normal, healthy heart, this is the only electrical connection between the atria and the ventricle. An important feature of the AV node is that the electrical conduction briefly slows here. This delay is physiologically useful because it allows the atria time to contract and move blood into the ventricles before the ventricles depolarize and contract. From the AV node, the electrical signals continue through the bundle of His, into right and left bundle branches, and then through the Purkinje fibers. The Purkinje fibers rapidly distribute the electrical signal through the ventricular myocardium. The electrical signal is conducted through the ventricles so that the ventricular contraction generally proceeds from the apex, which is here, toward the base, which is here. This helps direct blood toward the pulmonary artery and aorta. Though we mentioned the electrical activity of the heart can be detected at the surface of the body. We record this with an instrument called an electrocardiogram, which is abbreviated either ECG or EKG. Because the electrical activity is coordinated and repetitive, in the normal healthy heart, we can expect to see repeating predictable electrical pattern. This is a picture of a standard 12-lead EKG. Each of these segments here represents a particular lead, so you'll notice there are 12 different leads identified here. We're not going to learn how to interpret all 12 leads in this course. Instead, we'll use a representative tracing to understand the major electrical events that occur during a normal heartbeat. An important point to understand is that the ECG records electrical activity, not contraction itself. Electrical activation occurs first, and then in a normal healthy heart, we should expect mechanical contraction to follow. The electrical sequence begins when the SA node depolarizes. The electrical signal spreads through the atrial myocardium. The atrial muscle cells depolarize, and shortly thereafter, the atria contract. On the ECG, atrial depolarization produces the P wave. The P wave is relatively small because the atrial myocardium represents a considerably small amount of muscle mass. After atrial depolarization, the electrical signal reaches the AV node. Conduction slows briefly through the AV node. That delay gives the atria time to finish contracting before ventricular contraction begins. This conduction from the atria through the AV node is reflected in the PR interval. I simply want you to acknowledge the PR interval as it highlights the purposeful delay between the atrial and ventricular electrical activation. After passing through the AV node, the electrical signal rapidly travels through the ventricular conducting system and spreads through the ventricular myocardium. The ventricular muscle cells depolarize. On the ECG, ventricular depolarization produces the large QRS complex. The QRS complex is much larger than the P wave because the ventricle contains much more muscle than the atria. Following ventricular depolarization, the ventricular myocardium contracts. The ventricle muscle cells repolarize toward the resting electrical state. Ventricular repolarization produces the T wave on the ECG. Following repolarization, ventricular muscle relaxes and prepares for the next cardiac cycle. Atrial repolarization also occurs, but it's generally obscured by the much larger electrical activity in the QRS complex. So whereas we have the T wave showing the clear repolarization of the ventricle, the repolarization of the atria is likely lost here within the QRS complex.